Get ready. Blues Traveler and Jen Blossoms. Plus special guests, Spin Doctors. September 10th, Lordson Amphitheater at Waterworks Park. Blues Traveler, Jen Blossoms. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster. Blues Traveler and Jen Blossoms. Presented by the Willis Summer Series.
The biggest party of the year is here. Zach Brown Band Love and Fear Tour, presented by Margaritaville at Sea. Friday, November 20th, Casey Center. Zach Brown Band with special guest Grace Potter. Tickets are on sale now at ZachBrownBand.com.
And a little bit of chicken fried.
Don't miss Zach Brown Band Love and Fear live.
Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, the two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. Game Day Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners, best enjoyed with an easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, and Iowans everywhere. It is Legends and Listeners. It is an Iowa-Nebraska rivalry edition of our show right here from the Channel Seed Studios. We are presented by Game Day Men's Health. I am Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register. Thanks to my friend Scott Dochterman of The Athletic for an outstanding podcast while I was away with Iowa football general manager Tyler Barnes. Really enjoyed listening to that upon my re-entry into the United States. Awesome show. I mean, amazing feedback on that, Scott. But it's good to be back together with you again, and it was good to be with you on Tuesday night for a drama-filled Iowa men's basketball victory over number 9 Nebraska at Carver Hawkeye Arena. 57-52. It was a slugfest. Scott, I've got like 6 or 7, but I do have 6 or 7 topics from that game that are just like so meaty. But I want to let you start it off. Where do you want to start out of that game Tuesday night, that wild scene?
Oh my, there's so much to start with there, Chad, and I think that we would be remiss. We're going to discuss what ended up happening that none of us knew. Otherwise, we would have asked Fred about it, certainly after the fact. But, a young fan put his cell phone right in Fred Hoiberg's face, and Fred smacked the phone and ended up smacking one of the Iowa staffers in the process, led to an apology, and then Big Ten reaffirmed the apology. But that's not really where I want to go with this to start off with. I do want to start with that Bennett Sturtz is as good of a player as I've seen at Iowa since I started covering Iowa basketball. I mean, Luka Garza, National Player of the Year, was fantastic. But as we know, and you could kind of say the same thing with Megan Gustafson and Caitlin Clark, there's just something different when there's a guard who can do the things that he can do. And it's getting more and more that he is being relied upon to do everything for this team. And he engineered victory in every single way on Tuesday night. And so I think this, he's a one-year guy. But, I remember at the beginning of last year, people were saying who's going to have the biggest impact between Gronowski and Sturtz this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know. And I still would say, I don't know, but I think they're both been outstanding. And I think Bennett Sturtz just continues to get better and better. He's easily one of the 5 best players in the Big Ten. And considering what the load he has on his shoulders, he might be the best, the MVP based on, because Iowa wouldn't be anywhere near where they would be without him.
Yeah, that's actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's something I'm tooling around with in my head right now. Is I can't remember ever there being a time where one singular player was just so instrumental to Iowa men's basketball. That, like you said, Garza had unbelievable numbers, and all credit to him. I mean, national player there, you can't, like you said, it's like a Gustafson comp almost. You're exactly right. But there's a reason we watch these NCAA tournaments every year, and the teams with the guards are the ones that are the most dangerous and the ones that can get those clutch buckets. And oh my gosh, I mean, when the game started and he was on Price Sanford, I was like, oh, I'd like kind of sat up in my seat and I was like, okay, this is interesting. I was like, and I told my colleague Tyler right out of the gate, I was like, well, his endurance is going to get tested tonight because he's going to be running all over the floor on defense. Like, he's chasing Price all game, and he was getting decked. I mean, he was probably thrown to the floor, just with basketball contact, I don't know, 8 times at least. I mean, it was a lot. And he never came out. He never came out. He scores 25 points. He scores every clutch point that Iowa needed. I mean, the 3-pointer, the steal and the driving layup, the 3-for-3 free throws at the end. I mean, they had nothing else. Iowa had nothing else in that game offensively, really. And he did it. So I'm glad you started there because there's so much, but it's just, I was thinking that too. It's like, God, he's only got 5 games left now of the regular season at Iowa. And maybe 1 or 2 at the Big Ten tournament, maybe 1 or 2 in the NCAAs, and that's it. That's all you're ever going to see Bennett Sturtz as a Hawkeye. And you had that same feeling with Gronowski. It's like, wish you had more, like that was it. Oh, all these fans, I'd love to have 1 more year with him. I mean, it's truly been a pleasure to watch him, and I can't believe how good he is.
Yeah,
I can't.
He's so smooth. He's so disciplined, so focused. Yes, he has turnovers, but when you're asking a guy to do everything, things like that are going to happen. And he's been asked to shoulder a heavy load scoring the basketball, which I thought was kind of interesting going back to the preseason comments that Ben McCollum made, which was he doesn't necessarily like to score. He'd rather have 20 assists versus 20 points. But with this team, he has to score. But he would be very good if he had 2 or 3 other guys who could really score the way they want to. So I think, when you look at the way Bennett Sturtz has performed, it's just, there hasn't been a guard with his profile, even approaching his profile at Iowa in 30 years. It's Andre Woolridge. But I think he has been better than Andre Woolridge was. I mean, he was at the same time we were in college, so we kind of knew him, and there's some legacy bias to that. But I mean, I'll go back to Ronnie Lester for the type of impact, different player, of course, but the kind of impact that he's having. And I mean, to win that game, I mean, Chad, we look big picture at this victory and what it means for this season after winning 6 straight games and losing 2 and didn't look good in either loss to 2 different teams. Now you're at a situation where if you lose 3, even though it's to the number 9 in the country, you're on a losing skid and things are starting to unravel and you're starting to wonder if you're going to get in the tournament. But now getting that win, a quality win over a top 10 team, over a rival. I mean, I think this team right now is, thanks to Bennett Sturtz, is on a path to 20 wins and an NCAA tournament bid.
Yeah, and of those, so they're at 19 now, which matches the 2023 total, the 2024 total, and then last year they had 17. So 1 more win, and that's the first 20-win season for Iowa since the Big Ten tournament championship team that got the 5 seed with Keegan Murray. So, these are steps in year 1 of Ben McCollum. But of those 19, I mean, okay, they would have beaten some of those bye games. But how about of the 9 Big Ten wins? I mean, do they have any without Sturtz? Like, seriously, do they have one?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Because,
they've even really blown out. I mean, they've really, they've struggled with Northwestern the other day.
Yeah, I mean, and Northwestern's beaten Maryland, and Iowa loses there in probably their worst game of the season. I mean, that was one that's kind of unacceptable. I think, and that's probably a very, very disappointing thing to me about this team, Chad, and that is, I knew Sturtz would be good. We saw him last year. We knew his profile from how he performed at Northwest Missouri State and Drake. And yes, it's a step up, but he's still a really good player. We knew that. It's the other players around him you expected more from. You expected Alvaro Figueres to be a really good player, matching statistically what he did at Robert Morris as when he was the Horizon League MVP. And he hasn't done anything near that. I mean, you kind of think some of the other guards would, the Drake guys to me are that they're the glue pieces, they're the foundation, they're the try-hard guys. And Tavion Banks was great last night. I thought he played really well. Tavion Banks doing everything they asked him to do. And then he had 10 rebounds. That was really impressive, and they were really hard-fought rebounds. But I think, I'm just. Got to get 2 more scores. Brendan Hassan hasn't done anything, but that being said, I mean, to still be able to play defense the way they did in a very physical game, and I've heard a lot of Nebraska fans complain about the officiating, and I would say it's equal if you want to go there because I think Iowa has a lot of complaining they can do too, but. That being said, I mean, to be able to shut down one of the highest scoring teams in the Big Ten. And hold them to 52 points and win this game. I think this is the signature victory of the season. Yeah. And it really kind of ushers in, people need to have faith in Ben McCollum because at some point this is all going to pay off.
Yeah, and you mentioned the officiating, and Iowa didn't shoot a free throw in the second half till 36 seconds left. So there was a lot of stuff that went uncalled on both sides in certain points. And what I was going to say about the officiating is it's very, even if there are complaints, it's very, it's just normal that hostile home crowds in the final minutes do impact games. And you got to give that Iowa crowd, the student section being right on top of them in that second half. I mean, where Nebraska's got the basketball, needing to make buckets. Those students were all over those guys. And I mean, what a difference it makes having them just right behind the bucket there. The biggest thing is that they're there. The students are actually there. That's a huge shift from year over year here. And so I think I just want to give the student section and the fans for the passion that they brought on Tuesday night, because it wasn't a full house, but it felt like a full house, Scott. It felt like a big game environment. And they were certainly juiced up. I may have disagreed with some of the chants, but they were revved up and ready for a fight. The crowd was, and they were in it the whole time. That was what was kind of encouraging, because we've seen, how many times, Scott, have we seen? They'll get up for a little while, and then it's just like, the other team makes a bucket, and then they sit down. But not on Tuesday night. It was like, okay, let's get a stop this time. We didn't score that time down. Let's get a stop. Crowd's up. They loved, 27, 28 seconds of defense. They were loving it. And I thought that to me, that felt different to me. That felt like a new era. It's not all the way there yet. I'm not pronouncing that. Not all the way there. But you feel the difference in terms of fan engagement. And that's what McCollum's trying to get. That is, hey, we appreciate you. The way we play, we want to endear ourselves to you, and it's coming. You can see that, and I felt like Tuesday night was definitely a step forward just because you got the win for them, too.
Yeah, I'll start by saying I did not like at all the chant, and I thought that was unfortunate. But that being said, they were in it all game, and that's something that we haven't seen on a consistent basis for a long, long time. And I was pleasantly surprised, I guess. Not only was that those risers on the floor full, but then the entire stands behind them were full, kind of where the band is. A lot of times that's empty, or that has been empty for a better part of a decade, and before that even. And the fact that it was all full, and it was kind of more the Gen Pop fans, that had more of the holes in it. I thought, okay, this is good. And they were consistently loud. They were into it, as you said, Chad. And that's really what builds the Carver, what makes Carver a good place to watch basketball, as opposed to a tomb that it felt like for so many years. Because when the students are into it, and they're always chanting and they're always into it, it turns the place into a real tough environment. And I think we saw that. And then, of course, the court rush. And those are the moments you have to capitalize on it. And unfortunately, in Fran's era, they had a lot of big wins, a lot of nice wins, I thought. But I also thought that they didn't capitalize on those moments where you've got your fans at a fever pitch. I think I remember, 10 years ago, we had Aaron White was in attendance yesterday for the first time since he played. And there were so many games like he was in and Dev Marble was in that they lost close ones, and the fans were just ready for those moments, Dev Marble and all them, and all of a sudden, what a letdown. No, this time they got out and they were able to do everything that way and celebrate on the court. And granted, one person went out of line, was completely out of line, and caused an apology out of Iowa and a statement from the Big Ten, but I think that's just a footnote to what this is and what this means to this program.
Yeah, you have to go back to February 1st, 2019, to the last time that the Hawkeyes had a home top 10 win to celebrate. So 6+ years, Scott. That was Bohannon's junior year, right? His junior year. That was
his first junior year.
Yeah, right. That was the team that ultimately pushed Tennessee to overtime in the round of 32. So it was Garza's sophomore year. Wieskamp was a freshman, so that team was kind of coming.
Tyler Cook, I think, was on that team.
Yeah, yep. And so, but anyway, that's how long it's been. I mean, that was a long time ago. Apparently, I don't know for sure, but apparently it was the longest streak in the Big Ten without a top 10 home victory. Now, the Hawkeyes did have 2 other top 10 wins since then. They beat number 4 Ohio State during COVID over in Columbus, late season 2021. I was actually over at that game with nobody there. Iowa routed Ohio State in that one. I think it was 73-57. Distinctly remember that game. And then, of course, they beat number 9 ranked Purdue in the Big Ten tournament final in 2022. But so they've had a few top 10 wins, but not in Carver. So in other words, these fans have been waiting a long time for something like this, to celebrate. So, I guess perspective-wise, you're right. I mean, when I think back to, you think about the Zach McCabe, miss against Wisconsin. You think about, I remember there was a Michigan State game. I think it was it Gazelle or it was like someone got shut down at the rim right at the end or missed a layup, right?
That was an overtime. Yeah, it was an overtime. Yeah. Yeah. Nelson Wasabi had a miss, or Dev Marble had the ball late, tie score, missed the layup, and then somebody went in through the rim and blocked the shot, even though they didn't get called. But and then Gazelle missed it. There were just so many of those. Aaron Kraft on the other team and Ohio State, and it was just like such a gut punch. And after a while, you're going. And that's what makes it hard. That's why people start to become apathetic. They start to callous themselves and decide, well, you know what, I'm not going to get my hopes up because they always seem to find a way to fall apart. And the Saturday appeared to me to be one of those days where it could change the tenor because it was their first sellout in 2 years. They were playing the preseason number 1. You're playing Purdue, a team you played forever and a day, and they have a really good team. And Iowa played poorly in every facet. And Purdue's better than they are, period. And no matter what Bennett Sturts did, and he was the best player on the floor, it didn't matter because, 8 of Purdue's players are better than Iowa 2 from 8. and they get blown out. And really player for player with Nebraska is a better team than Iowa is, other than Bennett Sturts. But you catch, basketball's a game where you can guard home field better than any other sport. The crowd really matters in basketball, and I don't think Iowa wins if the students aren't there. I think if this was a year ago, Chad, I think they lose. Well, because Fran's coaching too, but I think they lose, and it's a disappointing. Well, here we go again, type of moment.
Yeah. Well, the day after the game, I went into GameDay Men's Health on Wednesday, and man, every room was full with happy customers at Carver, happy customers at GameDay Men's Health, getting dialed into their best selves. For me, that's been the weekly testosterone replacement therapy program. The T shots, took a big old needle with me to Aruba last week and kept the tea flowing as my wife and I were celebrating our 20th anniversary, or we are this year, later this year. But it's GameDay Men's Health is thriving for a good reason. It can safely get your testosterone at high-performing levels, which helps with your mood, your stamina, your sex drive, your fitness. I know Scott last night at Carver was getting compliments left and right about the progress he's shown, and I wouldn't be as enthusiastic about it either if I wasn't so grateful for GameDay Men's Health. And you too can get hooked up with them with a private, no obligation, free consultation by visiting GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Or visit one of their locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, or North Liberty, or Naperville, Illinois.
Yeah, it's been fun to be able to run this. I do this now when I go up to get something to eat. I run the stairs, and I couldn't have done that a year ago, Chad. Not without this, not without GameDay Men's Health. But I made it all the way to the top, not heavy breathing or anything like that. And I'm like, wow, this is different. This is what it would have been like a million years ago, or 30 for me. So 33 or something. So it's been a godsend for me to be in my 50s and feel like I'm in my 20s. So I do recommend people doing this because it's life changing. And for all the years that I was overweight in a way that I didn't like, and you'd always figure, how do I do this? How do I get rid of this? How do you start something? You're not good at it. This has been something that's been very helpful for me.
Well, let's talk about a couple rivalry aspects of the game Tuesday night. We're recording late Wednesday. That's why we keep slipping and saying last night. But Fred Hoiberg, obviously, I'm a huge Fred Hoiberg fan, honestly. I always have been. When he was at Iowa State, too. I just think he's a classy guy. I love the way he runs a program. I think he's, I would love to cover him. If he was Iowa's coach, too. And so I had zero problem with really anything. I mean, it was just a court storming thing. I don't even think Iowa security was really like I don't even. They apologized. They did the right thing. It just kind of happened, and I'm glad it wasn't anything too much crazier. But if you're gonna go up with your phone next to near the opposing head coach, they're supposed to have clear pathways. So I really don't have any problem with anything that happened other than, the student or whoever it was, kind of got what was sort of coming to him, really.
It's like the.
And it wasn't even a big deal, Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's kind of like the Mike Tyson thing that, too many people are doing things right now without having the consequences of getting punched in the mouth for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's somewhat here. And I watched how he got onto the floor. He snuck right next to the scorer's table and the seats. He just kind of knifed his way in there and held up the camera in front of Fred's face. And again, these are people who are competing at a very high level. And to be this isn't Twitter. You can't just be a smart ass and just expect people to ignore you. I mean, especially after a highly competitive event and you put somebody in somebody's face, you're going to probably face some repercussions. And Iowa security, I watched them. They did a nice job of kind of walling off the main court storm from the players to allow them access to their lane. And so I wouldn't blame Iowa. It's just, some people are like, well, okay, how are you going to ensure this is not going to happen again? I'm like, you can't. I mean, 2 years ago, we're talking about Caitlin Clark getting drilled at Ohio State. And that was much more serious than this, and especially because, let's face it, Fred's a pretty big guy. He can still take care of himself. And I'm with you about Fred because, you want to talk about classy. After Chris Street died, he changed his number to 40.
Yeah.
So, there shouldn't be any kind of animosity at all towards him. It was unfortunate. I'm not sure which staffer got hit. Kind of, he smacked.
I think it was Kyle Denning.
That's what I thought it was, but I haven't
confirmed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have not confirmed that. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, it looked like that, and he kind of got hit in the ear, and maybe there's and Fred kind of grabbed his arm. I don't know if he was to say sorry or if it was to say go get that guy or what, but
right.
But I do think that something needs to be in order. We saw that with, I think it was Carolina and Duke, where you got a staffer from, I think it was Duke, that got punched in the face when the court storm happened at Duke. I think one thing that's probably simple that needs to be rectified after the season at all arenas is the visitor needs to have the closest access to the tunnel. Because if you were to switch the benches at Carver, or when they do the remodel, put access to a locker room on that side of the floor, I think that could eliminate a lot of this. And two, I think I'm done with the handshake lines. I understand the sportsmanship aspect of it, but that's a bygone era. Right now, emotions are too high. I don't even know if the coaches need to be doing this, because they seem so awkward, in football or whatever, like even the Bears and Packers, so it's like, just move on, and if you want to go say hi, great, but don't feel like good game. I mean, this isn't Little League, and if to me, if Nebraska sees that they're coming out, just get to the locker room, and save yourself, because I didn't like some of the fans taunting Price Sanford either when he was on the floor, and I was glad that he kind of got rushed out of there, because that was uncalled for, So I don't want to be the mean guy in the room on this, but I do think that there needs to be some changes, and Iowa did the right thing today, or yesterday if you're listening to it when it comes out, but it's there's some room that needs to grow here.
Yeah, and like you said, it was a hostile, charged up environment, for sure. I mean, there weren't a lot of Nebraska fans there, but so I heard from a lot of people that Nebraska fans were definitely chirping the whole game.
Yes, they were.
They were. It was not, so it was just kind of feeding off each other. You know what I mean? It's great. That's what sports are. That's awesome. You want to have that rivalry. I mean, that's what makes it fun. But I mean, obviously everyone knows by now probably that I'm 100% in agreement with you on the Price Sanford stuff. I thought, to me, the Sanfords gave 6 years combined to Iowa basketball. Peyton in particular, gave his heart, soul, body, gave everything
shoulders
to the team. For a team that was basically dead man walking last year, and he was out there giving every single thing he had. And to me, I just felt like you owed it to the Sanford family to not behave that way. That was my opinion. Obviously not shared by, several, but I did hear from a lot of people, because a lot of people knew that was my stance going into the game. Yeah. And I heard from a lot of people at the arena, like, I really liked what you had to say about that. I agree. And, it's just like, it's kind of like Twitter, if like 1,000 people are going to say the F word, then and 14,000 don't want to, it's still, you're going to hear the 1,000. So, right. But anyway, so that's that. I think I thought it was unfortunate. Other people, I know Iowa fans are like, screw him, he went to the rival, Yeah. If if a Hawkeye transferred to Iowa State and was playing against you, you'd probably be pretty mad. So, I get that kind of part of it too, but I felt like the Sanford situation, to me, knowing what those guys gave, especially Peyton, and to me, you have that respect for the Sanford name. To me,
I agree.
Just that you don't do that in that case, and so it'll be interesting. I mean, it's totally different. I mean, Aaliyah Guyton's coming to town next week for Illinois. I don't think it's going to be nearly the same.
No,
obviously, but I mean, I'm just saying, it's just like, I don't know. People were just charged up. I didn't like it, but I did like the atmosphere, and I liked how the rivalry felt on Tuesday night.
I don't have a problem with people giving it to him. That's one thing that when you start to talk about, atmosphere. I remember Jason Bohannon getting really butchered a lot when he was at Wisconsin, because Jordan's oldest brother, because he was at Wisconsin, and when he came in, people really gave it to him a lot, and that was kind of unfortunate too. Similar type chants and stuff, and that is a part of sports, and you kind of have to go, that's too bad. I would have liked a different phrase, like if they said like Hawkeye traitor or something like that. Okay. That's more innocent than what was said, but I'm not, but then again, if you remove one word, I think you're okay. So either way, I will say this: that it was a supercharged crowd. It was great for Iowa. A little bit of regret there. I'm glad Ben McCollum started off by giving praise because again, Peyton Sanford gave his whole body to that program. He was. I told him last year after his last game that I said. He teared up. I just said, if there's one player that I've seen that's embodied Chris Street as a player, it's you. Because I know what you've gone through to play in this year and to play with your heart on your sleeve and with the emotion that you do. He is Chris Street. So I think, I really wish that people would have thought about that a little bit more, but I understand. Hey, he left and he went to a rival that's having a lot of success. And if Iowa had him, they would be better than they are today. So
fair, because they do need a number 2 scorer. Maybe we should talk about kind of the flaws of this team here, Scott. I mean, the good news from Iowa's win is really entrenches the Hawkeyes as an NCAA tournament team, moves them up, they got to take care of a little more business to be sure, but they get Penn State on the road here in a couple games. Ohio State at home next Wednesday night. That'll be a big game. They got Wisconsin on Sunday. In Madison. This is a team that's not playing its best right now. It's a tough spot for the Hawkeyes because you get Madison. You go up to the Kohl Center after your own emotional victory. The Badgers just lost by 17 at Ohio State, so they're going to be pissed off. Not a great spot. I don't know if I did cover one Hawkeye win in the Kohl Center. It was the Jordan Bohannon 3-pointer. That was remember that?
I do. I was at the Combine that week. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember watching it.
Yeah, one of the most memorable games I've covered, honestly, because of kind of the stuff we're talking about. He was. Now he didn't transfer from Wisconsin,
but Jason and Zach were getting a hard time from Wisconsin fans for cheering for their brother, and just like Peyton, Peyton was wearing Nebraska because of his brother. Those things,
and he should.
He should. I mean, he is. You can't take away their credentials. Whether it's Peyton's always a Hawkeye and Jason Bohannon's always a Badger, those things are the case. But when you're talking about blood, and you're talking about brothers. That's in the driveway you can wear different colors, but out in public you're all together. But I will say, with Iowa, and this is where the Big Ten is at this stage. It always gets like this in February, where everybody hits a bump. Everybody has a rough little patch. Whether it's Illinois losing a couple of games, and if it's what Wisconsin last week, they blow out Michigan State and it's like, oh boy, here we go. The Badgers are back. And then they go and lose by 17. And then you look at Iowa and losing to Maryland and it's just horrendous fashion. And then Purdue blowing them out to make you wonder, is this team going to even win another game? And as we know, you've got to learn how to flush it. And if you're in the Iowa City area, the best way to learn how to flush it is to call Ackerman Plumbing. And it's time to discover how the plumbing industry can be when you choose a customer-first, independently owned and operated business like Ackerman Plumbing. Ackerman Plumbing services the Iowa City area, and we're thankful for their support here in Iowa, everywhere as legends and listeners and Instant Iowa. Ackerman is only in the residential plumbing business, so your calls matter and will always be answered in a timely manner. So whether it's for a plumbing emergency, routine service and maintenance, equipment replacement, or upgrades like tankless water heaters and water filtration systems, call Ackerman. So shout out to the Ackerman team, Corey, Stacy, Aaron, and Nathan, and visit ackerman-plumbing.com for 5-star residential plumbing services in the Iowa City region.
Man, when we didn't talk much Iowa men's basketball last year on Legends and Listeners. No. Other than just, the decline and it wasn't even fun to talk about. But man, we're 30 some minutes in and it's just like, we've talked about one single game. I can't remember the last time we've done that about one single men's game. And there's still more to talk about because what's the answer here? Because this is a flawed team right now. They're not going to go far if it's just Sturts, okay?
Yeah.
They scored as Hoiberg said last night or Tuesday night. You hold a team to 57 points on the road, you should win that game. Iowa only scored 57 points, 7 for 28 in the second half from the floor.
Yeah.
Now they won it with defense, rebounding, free throws, free throw percentage, I should say. The free throw totals were pretty even, but they just got to get something more. I mean, I thought Cooper Koch gave them a little something, but man, it's just they're just getting nothing from Maniau, Combs. I mean, Sage didn't play much. Fulgaris he's got to get more. They need more out of him. And then, what are the answers? Like, here's the thing. Like, I want to say, like, play Brendan Haas more. He can give you offense, but then I'm like thinking to myself, okay, like, he's not playing him for Ben McCollum, like, is making these playing decisions for a reason. Like I trust Ben McCollum right now so much as a coach that I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing, but man, you just feel like you just want to see a little more offense out there. Like with a guy like Hassan, for example, I mean, I'm not saying like play him 30 minutes, but if you're struggling to score, maybe throw him out there, because he'll draw attention. I don't know. They gotta figure something out, because when they start with Combs and Maniau, like you're down to 3 guys that can score,
right?
With Banks, Koch, and Sturts.
And this is why what they've been able to do is a credit to Ben McCollum and the way he's able to he has the best player on the floor, and then he has 4 guys that would be backups everywhere else. Just 7, 8, 9 on the bench type of players in some cases, and that's. But what he's doing is putting them in positions to win. And in a lot of cases, it feels like watching some Iowa football offense at times where you're just going, you're like picking up rocks. It's like, well, what about moving this running back over to wide receiver, or just something different, instead of run outside zone, and then they throw the ball in the dirt and then punt and hope Tory Taylor, puts him on the 2. That's kind of way this feels, except, Bennett Sturts bail him out. I don't know that I see an aggressiveness at all. I see a very passive. Nobody's taking charge at all, and except for Sturts. And it's like I used to make fun of when there was a 35-second clock. I used to make fun of Licklider's offense because I always he wanted slow movement, and I always called it 30 seconds of fear and 5 seconds of panic. And in some ways, it's like this too. I mean, the only person that's willing to take the shot is Cooper Koch, but I'm with you that. If somebody could step in and not be a deficit in one area that's too much, they'd play. Whether it's Trey Thompson, it's like, where are you? Why aren't you playing? Or Brendan Hassan or something like that. Well, apparently that they are so much of a deficit in some area that the coach doesn't think that they can, the Ben McCollum doesn't think they can go in and win games. And so that's why you got Bennett Sturts playing 40. But if he gets hurt or winded, and he's getting everybody's best shot, they're trapping, they're doing all kinds of different things, and yet he's coming through. Other players are going to have to be aggressive. They're just going to have to take their shots. And Fulgaris is the one that I'm pointing to, partly because he's an expensive player, but also because he fits the profile. He's 6'10", 6'11". He has a skill set, and I'll only say skill set, comparable to Dirk Nowitzki in that he's a stretch 4. He's a pick and pop. He can go inside and play defense, and he does play decent defense. I'll give him credit most of the time on that. But you need him to score points. You need him to be a 15-point guy. And and Tuesday night, he was 2 of 3 from the field. With 3 rebounds and 2 turnovers. And that's not good enough. I mean, it's just not. And for this team, because you look at who they've got left, Penn State's a really good offense. Now they're a terrible defense. So Iowa, but if you miss shots, that evens out. And I've been there before where it's been like, how are you losing to these guys? And it's a tomb over here. And but everybody hits this rut at this time. We see it with Wisconsin, and they'll be kicking themselves if Iowa plays well. So I think if they get one more win, Chad, to get in the regular season and a tournament win, or a combination of 2 more wins somehow, I think this team solidifies itself as a tournament team and out of Dayton.
Yeah, definitely. I think they'll get 2 more. I think they'll get 2 out of these next 5, and that'll give them 21 going to the Big Ten tournament. I mean, that'll be 11-9 in the Big Ten. at worst if they can get those two. So next week against Ohio State, it's a biggie. Tonight, Scott, I have poured a Run Wild IPA from Athletic Brewing Company. It's the ultimate sessionable IPA for craft beer lovers, brewed with a blend of live 5 Northwest hops. It has an approachable bitterness to balance the specialty malt body. Athletic Brewing Company is America's largest dedicated non-alcoholic brewer and a proud sponsor of Legends and Listeners. Unfortunately, it is not yet prominent on the island of Aruba, where I was last week, but it's going to be back in the old USA to crack open a 65-calorie IPA. Athletic Brewing, fit for all times. Make sure to check out their wide variety of products at athleticbrewing.com.
And if you want something with a little bit more kick to it, and we've talked about these great games, and I tell you what, Chad, it's been really nice, the weather. So if you want to sit on a patio with a jacket over at Big Grove in any of the locations here in the state of Iowa, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, the OG in Solon, or Omaha, and then they're going to go to the Kansas City area, it's a perfect time. And I'm going to recommend the neighborhood beer this week because it's got a low APV at 4.5. It's available year round, and it's really a nice, smooth Pilsner. And it's one that goes down like a domestic, but has a little bit more flavor. And it's just what I would call a good drinking lager. So it's to me, the neighborhood beer at Big Grove is something I would recommend. And then if you're not in the mood to drink alcohol, they've got plenty of strong, good food. And I'd say before this weekend, it's going to get a little colder again, but I'd say that this weekend would be a good time before you get there is to hit up Big Grove, and then otherwise just sit inside, watch the Badgers and the Hawkeyes renew vows on Sunday.
Yes, I was over. So my first day back was Monday. And got up at 6 a.m., drove over to Lincoln, Nebraska for a President's Day game for the Iowa women. And I had somebody in my, once they saw I was over there, hey, you should stop by Big Grove in Omaha on your way back. Maybe they have some NA options. And obviously I couldn't do that, but I appreciated the offer and the them knowing that Big Grove was a sponsor of our show. So, but anyway, the Iowa women. Nebraska fans must just feel like, God, what do we got to do to beat Iowa?
Yeah.
in anything. Even Iowa wrestling's not even good this year, and they beat Nebraska over there. The women just went over to Lincoln and trucked them. 27-point lead in the fourth quarter. That's a massive win for the Hawkeyes, just because it was a tough spot. Nebraska was desperate. This is a team that, Caitlin Clark's senior year, they did beat Iowa that year. That was one of the few times Nebraska's beaten Iowa in any sport recently. And for them to look as good as they did, they're now 11-3 in the Big Ten, Scott, heading into tonight's game against Purdue. They should win that to go to 12-3. Now they're 10th straight 20-win season. There's just a lot of, now that they've figured out the McCabe stuff, Taylor Stremlow in the starting lineup, Iowa women's basketball looking pretty good again. Number 11 overall seed in the reveal. So that's going well now.
Yeah, and I think that's really important right now because if this team could get at least the first host weekend, I think it really shows that they're able to continue to put themselves in a position to have success. And when you have a young program, and it's still very young because you look at, especially now with Taylor McCabe out, Hannah Stolke is going to be a big loss, but by and large, they've got a lot of young pieces. You could make the case that other than Stolke, that Ava Heiden and Chit Chat Wright are the two best players on this team. And I've always thought good things about Taylor Stremlow. I'm glad she's in the lineup because I always thought she made everybody around her better. In a similar fashion to Kate Martin. She's not there. She's not Kate Martin. but in a similar fashion. And I think next year when you get Batman, Leistikow in the offense, and Addie Deal, I think another year. This is always tough, and for somebody like her who's very talented, going through some of the inconsistencies, I think at some point she'll break out of that. Another year of work will probably put her on that path, and so you can see that bright light going forward for this program. But you know what? There's still a lot of season left, and as you said, going to Lincoln, it's always you're going to get a spirited crowd, and you're going to get a good shot from them. And then there they were. They were able to. You were there. It looked like it was complete domination, and until they kind of let up at let the foot off the gas at the end. But I mean, that was a big time win. That and the Washington win, because as we're seeing on the men's side, the combination of this part of the season, everybody's going to hit road bumps. How do you respond to it? How do you get the adversity? I think having that week off after the Minnesota loss, after the USC and UCLA loss, gather yourself, win against Washington, go to Lincoln and win decisively. Now you've got Purdue on the road, which should be a win. Then you're like, okay, we're back. We're kind of figuring things out. And then they've got a couple of tough games to finish. Obviously Sunday against Michigan is going to be really challenging, but ultimately I think this is they're in a really good spot.
If they get past Purdue tonight, 6 p.m. Big Ten Plus, the game Sunday sets up as a battle for second place. Obviously, UCLA is running away with the Big Ten, but Hawks are one game behind the Wolverines, and it would put them in position for a double bye in the Big Ten tournament. I mean, if they can just win 3 of the last 4, they'll get a double bye pretty much in the Big Ten tournament, which is a step forward for Jan Jensen's program. Last year, they were the 11th seed in the Big Ten. I mean, they were better than that, but they were a 6th seed in the NCAA. So like you said, if they can, maybe jump up with this very, very young team, and then they get Leistikow next year. And I'm with you. I mean, Caitlin Clark spoiled us all with how good she was as a freshman. I mean, it's just rare to come in as a freshman and be really good. And so I think another year for Addie Deal, another year for Layla Hayes, and they could have a really good roster. Speaking of one last point on this team, though, it's kind of like they have a flaw here, Scott, which is they're basically down to 6 viable players. So, it worked for the Ralph Miller 6-pack back in 1970, but can the Hawkeye women, can they do it with 6? I mean, it's going to be a margin for error is very, very thin right now.
And you would like to see. I mean, they're putting a lot of, I won't say pressure, but there's a lot on the freshmen who come in off the bench, and I think Journey Houston's probably been the most consistent of the 3, and I think she's going to be a really good addition. She has been a good addition because she was one at the beginning of the season that I didn't think would really be able to. I thought she was going to redshirt, and instead she's been valuable beyond words. And, an Addie Deal, again, ups and downs. I think Layla Hayes has really struggled. So you'd like to see her be able to take some minutes, because the fear you have, Chad, is, outside of injury, of course, but is Ava Heiden gets 2 fouls. Then what do you do? And that just seems to really hurt this team. And then there's some other players that you thought maybe would be better, Tegan Bellini doesn't really become part of the offense. It's just an early injury in the season, and there's a few others you just kind of wish could. Callie Levine has been in a little bit more on defense. That's been helpful. And I think if those players can fit in a role, and whether it's instant offense for Addie Deal and make some shots, and because right now I think confidence is probably waning for her. That just seems pretty obvious. She's missing a shot and she's not quite there. But if they can get an 8-person rotation to at least get in and have some decent minutes, then I think they have a chance to win a game or two in the Big Ten tournament, host, maybe get to the Sweet 16. And I think that's a wildly successful year, Chad, if you can get to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and just hosting, obviously, doesn't mean they're getting to the Sweet 16, but it does give them a little more friendly path. We've seen even Caitlin's teams had some struggles in those round of 32 games. So, but hosting gives you a better shot, and so we'll see if they can. I think they're on a good track for that. Got to take care of business. Probably win 3 of these last 4. Get Illinois next week at home. By the way, Senior Day for the women is Sunday. They're doing it the second to last home game for some reason. So, just FYI, if you're coming to the game, you'll have that ceremony after. So allow a little extra time. Let's talk about Iowa football now to finish. Hawkeyes are losing Omar Young, Scott, off of the staff. Wednesday, it was broken by 247 that he would be going to the Las Vegas Raiders. So back to the NFL for Omar Young. I know he was valued by Tim Lester as a running backs coach because he knew the Shanahan system. But at the same time, it's, I don't feel like it's the same level of losing like a Liddell Betts. I feel like it's a great guy, instilled a lot of discipline, but I think I don't think it's big news, I guess is what I would say. It's not big news, but it's something that now is on the ledger for Kirk Ferentz. He's got to replace his running backs coach a month before spring ball starts.
Yeah, it's unfortunate timing, but it is what happens. And Iowa has been as fortunate as any program in the country to have the lowest attrition. I think they have the lowest attrition of the Power 5 when it comes to the portal. And as we know, year after year, it's like big news when an assistant leaves, whereas for every other team in the country, an assistant leaves every year, more than one. A lot of them, we got a new coordinator. We got in Iowa, it's like, oh my God, the special teams coordinator left, And granted, LeVar is top shelf, but still, special teams coordinators leave a third of their universities every year. I don't see this as like a big loss necessarily. We saw some conflicting signals by some of the running backs, I would say in particular Kamari Moulton, that made you wonder. And if that's the case, then it's not the worst thing in the world for, hey, he's been in the NFL for most of his career. Go back to the NFL. They have a new coach at the Raiders. They're going to have the number 1 overall pick, and they have a fantastic running back, by the way, in Ashton Genty. So I think he'll be excited to coach him. And Iowa will find somebody too. I mean, there are a lot of good running backs and good running back coaches, and so I remember Derek Foster kind of came from Samford or someplace in the South, and he's been in the NFL a couple of times. He was really good. So
where's he at now? Is he still with the Cowboys now? Because I can't remember. Where was he?
He's bounced around a lot. It's hard. I can't remember.
It's hard to keep track of these guys.
He was at the Chargers and the Cowboys. I know Liddell, I think, is in South Florida. I think he's with Miami Dolphins now.
The Dolphins, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that would be one that if he wanted to come back, you'd be like, yes, we'll skip every process to make that happen. but because he is as good as there is, he's one that you do feel the loss for when he left because he's that good.
Yeah, I was told Liddell not an option. He and his wife and family are happy down in Florida. That's where he came from. Coming back to Iowa City. So that's not going to happen. But I would expect I know they were down to 3 candidates that they really liked. Don't have the other names for you here, but wouldn't be surprised if Tim Lester goes back to maybe the other 2 finalists there as a starting point to replace Omar Young. Before we talk about the Combine, Scott, I want to talk about Monster Jam. Good segue there because you got big guys at the Combine. These are big trucks. Monster Jam is coming to the Casey Center with 3 shows on April 11th and 12th. Not too long from now. IowaEverywhere.com has been running a contest to give away a 4-pack of tickets to a couple shows. You'll have to tune in to watch today's Two Guys episode to see if you were a winner. And if you're not, there's still plenty of time to order tickets to Monster Jam at the Casey Center, available at HighVTix.com. HighVTix, one word, TIX.com. 9
Jaws.
Hawkeye.
That looks like
look
Jaws.
Look at that thing.
Yeah.
My gosh. I've
There was
never been to a Monster Jam. I've never been to one. Maybe
I haven't either.
Yeah.
But I look at that and I think Jaws, and I'll tell you what, Chad, I don't think there was any sound as a 3-year-old or 2-year-old that was more terrifying than hearing dun 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 in the mid-70s. We got terrified. I mean, they gave us some horrific horror movies for us when we were kids. You know, they would, middle of the day, they'd pop on the Halloween promos, you know, and you'd hear that music with Michael Myers when you're 4 or 5 years old. It's like, and then you have donut, donut, and this shark eats people, and you're like 3 years old, and the books are everywhere, and you're like, ah. Anyway, I digress. But that's what I saw Monster Jam, and I thought Jaws, and I turned to being 3 years old.
Well, we did not want to close the show, Scott, without talking about the NFL Scouting Combine, which is because you're going to the Combine on Monday. So before our next show. So you'll be doing our next show from the Combine next week. So we want to give our listeners a little preview about whatever you expect to see. There are 9 Hawkeyes going, and I could not believe it. I was actually talking to Trevor Locke at the game last night. He was in the front row, and he's a great guy to talk to. And I was like, man, hey, what do you think about the guys at the Combine, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I can't believe Graves isn't going. I was like, seriously? He didn't make it? I had not even paid attention that Aaron Graves is not one of the 9 Hawkeyes going, Scott. So I'm setting the stage for you. You're Mr. NFL here. What are you looking for from these 9 Hawkeyes? Not that you have to list them all, but if you want to, go for it.
It is. It's not a record. I think in 2011 they had 9, and they ended up with 6 draft picks. I think they could be in the same ballpark here, and maybe. And I would say this. Start with Aaron Graves, who isn't going. That Aaron will probably still get drafted. Mason Richmond got drafted. Going all the way back to Aaron Campman didn't go to the Combine, and he turned out to be a fantastic player for a long time, a Pro Bowler. And so I think he's still, somebody's going to see him, and it's going to be like a scouts pick, you might want to say, where they know about him, they're going to watch him, they're going to come to the pro day, they're going to be like, yeah, we still like, and he's going to get a lot of movement. Now I remember telling you last night that he's the type of player to me that I could see him flipping over the other side of the ball. He's a really good offensive lineman too in high school, and I think if Iowa certainly needed him to play defensive line, and they were nowhere near going to take another great interior defensive lineman and flip him over to center or guard, because they would have had a conniption, on the defensive side after Linderbaum and Logan Jones. But I think he could have been I think he could be a center or a guard in the NFL. But he's also a very good defensive tackle. So if I was somebody in the 6th round and you'd pick him and you watch him and you think, maybe he's, whatever, you just can envision him on the other side, he might be the type of guy you really hone in on for, because he's still pretty young. I mean, he didn't redshirt, he's a 4-year guy. But for the guys going, it's, on the first day, you've got Carson Shire. And I know a lot of Iowa fans have expressed it, especially to me, that they're surprised Shire is there and not Graves. However, Shire has been an ascending player and an incredible athlete. And think of some of the athletes that he has been similar to, and the importance of special teams. Now that teams return kickoffs, they need full service special teamers as well as linebackers. And so a player like him fits in like a Nick Neiman, a Ben Neiman, a Christian Welch. Those are high value players on special teams. I mean, Christian Welch is 30 years old probably now, and he's still making money covering kicks in the NFL. And if he goes there and he runs a 4.4 and he's got the physique and he's got the power, and what they did when they spied Diego Pavia in the bowl game, he really flashed there too, that's what they want to see. They want to get to know him. Maybe, so I think that's a really good one for him. Pass rushers are a premium in the NFL, and Max Llewellyn, he'll be a first day for us and everything. And I think he's, it's going to be interesting to see how he tests, what his explosiveness is. That's going to be a big thing, because you want to get a good get off if you're a defensive end and an edge player. And I think that's it. And then Drew Stevens is a kicker. whether he gets drafted or he's a priority free agent, who knows? But he's going to have an opportunity for sure, and he'll have multiple opportunities if he doesn't make a team. And then that's the first day for us on the Wednesday, and then on the Iowa State side, the Big Citrus will be there. Dominic Orange, who was really good, I thought. On Thursday is our DBs and tight ends. So TJ Hall, who's been an ascending player in draft circles. Again, with the passing game, you need a good corner, and he's certainly one that stands out. I am really intrigued about how the NFL views Xavier Wampa, who had the back half of his senior year was really, really good. And he's shown to be, he's long, he's athletic, he's got 5-star pedigree, he's a big-time hitter. Where do they see him? Do they see him as a box safety? Could he play, sub packages? Some might look at him the way that, what Ohio State did with Sonny Styles, who started off as a safety and moved him inside to linebacker. Somebody can say, well, you know what, maybe we could bulk him up and he can play linebacker because you need a former safety in space to play that role. So I'm kind of intrigued by what people see for Wampa. So and TJ Hall is definitely a boundary corner or field corner, whatever you want to put him, but is the type of guy that's, he really finished out strong. He stuck it out. It's not a requirement among scouts. I've talked to them last year. Do they feel like they need, players to stick around and no, for the bowl game? No, but it's a plus. It's like, okay, he's shown competitiveness, and that's what got Sam Laporta drafted as high as he did. And then Friday, our receivers and running backs and quarterbacks, which Mark Gronowski would be at. It's still, I wouldn't say it's probable at this point, but it could still happen for him. A lot of times quarterbacks, like Mendoza, it makes no sense for him to throw there, and other quarterbacks, it's like you're throwing to receivers you don't know when you're throwing routes, and you can only hurt yourself if you're a first rounder, like a Ty Simpson, who I'd say the same thing. You're probably a first rounder. Don't do this. Do it on your own pro day. And so if they feel like they need an extra arm, then they'll give him a call. And of course, his intangibles are off the charts, and he'll do great things there. And then offensive line is Saturday for us in our interview sessions, and Iowa has 3. And I
That's
know one
of to me. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's always fun because they get up on a podium, and every year when I'm there, and I remember last year with Connor Colby, they're nervous because they're at this kind of podium. It's a lot like Big Ten Media Days, I would say, except there's a bigger crowd, around than there is even at Big Ten Media Days, around some players. But Saturday's a little bit more thinned out with the offensive line, but they're in a strange environment. They're talking about the NFL, not, we're going to go out and play hard and win. So,
right.
But I remember like Connor last year, I kind of snuck in there, and even Jack Campbell a few years ago, I was somewhere and I'm like, oh damn, I got to go see him. So I rushed over, and like halfway through the interview, he's talking. He's like, hey, they're like thrilled to see a familiar face, and Connor was like the same way, just had this huge smile on his face, and
that's awesome.
Jack's like, hey, you know what I'm talking about, So I imagine Jennings Dunker will definitely light up the room. He'll be the life of the party, whether he, how he tests, I don't know. I'm sure he and Logan Jones will test off the charts, because they're, especially Logan, but I think Logan could actually, both of them, but I think Logan in particular can really elevate his draft profile there. Because there's some people who think he's a little bit light, and if he weighs 310 and he tests, runs well and does, which I think I'm sure he'll test unless there's something happen. And he will test well because he's just that good in that area. Then I think this team is, then he might be able to push himself into being potentially a second round type of pick. And
wow.
And that'd be big news. Maybe he'll end up in Chicago.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And then Bo Stevens is the other one. And, I'm real high on him just with his physicality and just the way he's matured as a person. I think he's I think he's going to be a long-time NFL player wherever he lands, but I'm curious if all three of them get drafted. Do you think they all do?
Oh, yeah, for sure. All three of them will be drafted by the fourth round in all three. You think so? Okay. Yeah, I would say somewhere between picks 50 and 125. I know that's a really wide disparity. It hasn't quite, shaken out, but it's like middle of the second round to early fourth. It just kind of depends on how the board falls, but and each one does something different. I mean, Dunker is now getting more run as a guard, which is where he's going to play, and I talked to George about it, and he's like, yeah, definitely. And I'm with you with Bo Stevens as a player. He kind of, I'm not comparing like the career. I hate doing this, but it's like as a style and as the temperament, it's a lot like Marshall Yanda.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
Just a dirty player, just a player that you look at and you're like, and then you watch the way he plays. It's like mean and nasty, and he'll kick your ass till your nose bleeds, and just, like Buffalo Bills, guard, Bo Stevens, something like that. It'd be
right. Yet he's the nicest guy. I mean,
he's great, but he'll bury you. All of them will bury you, and that's what I love about watching Iowa's offensive line. I mean, I love their style. I love the fact that bringing in the mid zone attack has allowed this style of blocking to be as successful. Because I know 4 or 5 years ago, Chad, we're talking about they should switch to gap blocking because they're just not getting, they're running for 3.2 yards per carry. But with Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker and Bo Stevens and allowing for the mid zone run to allow them to hit screws and hit sternums and things, changing their displacement areas and their aiming points, it's just made this line really good. And yeah, they have, you got to talk to Trevor Lauk and I think, there's going to be other guys that maybe next year.
Cade Peeper,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So if all three of those guys do get drafted, the line, then the entire 2024 Iowa offensive line will have been draft picks, and that's pretty impressive. Impressive to think about the rebuild of George Barnett's offensive line. So, man, fun combine. I can't wait for spring football. It's about a month away. Spring game is April 25th for those planning. Hasn't been announced, I don't think, but that's the plan. Yeah. So, spring ball is on the way. They 30 new guys, as Tyler Barnes said on our show last week. So much to unpack. Hiklinski was there last night. Talked to him real briefly. Quiet kid. I need him to be a better interview if he's going to be the QB1. But we'll work on him. So, anything else, Scott, before you let the folks go?
No, I just look forward to talking to you next week while I'm set up in Indianapolis on Radio Row, and maybe I'll be able to chat a little bit about the Bears and some other teams while I'm there.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys listening. Man, Iowa basketball, pretty fun again. Big week for the Hawkeyes. Season's coming up here. The season's about to end, so stick with us here on Iowa Everywhere. Legends and listeners, Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, only on Iowa Everywhere.